This is the Cool Guys podcast right here. Richard and, of course, Denny Cool. Richard, let's
never know the joys of going to a shopping mall where, I mean, it's just wall-to-wall people and stores with all kinds of different stuff. Not, I mean, now if there's a few malls open, but it's usually just clothing stores and not a whole lot going on. You know, back in the day, you know, you had science stores, you had I mean, music stores, bookstores, just stores that you just go in. I remember when where I grew up, there was a huge mall called Fox Valley Mall, and it was like a 2-story mall. And I mean, they had one store that was just like it was all about the theater. You could buy paint, you know, paint and makeup and all the stuff that you would need for a theater. They had one that was the Teddy Ruxpin Enchanted Village, and you know, back when Teddy Ruxpin was like the latest technology, you know, a talking bear. You put a cassette in him, and boy, his mouth moves. But they had this huge 3-dimensional tree in there, and you know, like things like that you'll always remember. And kids nowadays, they'll never know that feeling, that nostalgia that comes from going to a physical location like that. You know, it seems like most stores nowadays, they're just so cold. They're so warehousey. I've worked in a lot of warehouses, and I can always get that vibe when I'm in certain stores. They just have that warehousey feel, and there's just no warmth to them anymore. And yeah, just even back when Kmart's was the big thing and the blue light special, and when they still had the little snack stand in the middle, you know, with their subs and stuff. And we never had the money to to get those, but I always would look at the lemonade and those. Remember those old machines that had the like the lemonade or the crystal light, and they would kind of like flow in the machine, and it, like you'd sit and watch those. Like that was just so cool. Yeah, I can't even remember the last time I've seen one of those. Probably over 20, 25 years.
Well, it was nostalgia, right? And to your point, the generation today, and, you know, a lot of it, in all honesty, you know, we can't, like our generation, we can look at them and say, oh, they don't do this, or they don't understand this. Well, there's a reason they don't. They don't have it. It's not available to them.
Yeah, they've never known it.
They've never known it.
You can't miss something you've never known.
Right, exactly. We, by default, you know, that's why our brains we're not programmed to remember pain. We're not programmed to, we are programmed to remember good times, to remember happiness, to be happy. That's how our brains are hardwired. And so we reflect back on what once was, and we always want things to be the way they were, right? And so a lot of times that's why I think we have a hard time adjusting to all this new change and different opinions and ideas and whatever else is out there, the rest of the craziness. But to your point, though, yeah, even as simple as, like you said, we had this penny store up the street from the house we had in Denny, New Hampshire. Well, it was an apartment, and if we had 50 cents, it was a good day for us, because we'd ride our bikes, we'd go to the and we could get. He had these brown paper bags, right? And it was this old country store, hard, like, I mean, these creaky hard wooden floors, everything.
I know the kind.
Yeah, okay. In racks beyond racks of candy, the gummy fishes, the rock candy. Then he had these, and it was for like, I think like 5 cents. You could get like one of the big, like everlasting sour balls.
Stoppers, yeah.
The dinosaur eggs that you couldn't fit the thing in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and we would stock up on that. So for 50 cents, man, we had bags of stuff, and, you know, we stuff it in our pockets, and we ride our bikes home, and or either that, we'd leave the penny store, and we'd go hang out up the street next to this pond, and just sit there and chow on our candy, get all hyped up, and, you know, filled with adrenaline. I mean, you know, it sounds crazy and silly, right, to a lot of people today in that young. They're like, oh, that's boring. Yeah, that's the point. Is for us, that was our fun, because we didn't have all of this stuff, these gadgets. And when we got gadgets, like you said about Teddy Ruxpin, it was like, oh, that's like the really rich kids, right?
Oh, yeah. We didn't have them.
Right. My dad, years ago, I was, let me see, I must have been 12 or 13. I wasn't living with my dad. My brother and my sister did, but I was living with my mom. And my dad at the time had a construction business. And he was making, a ton of money. Anyways, he sold the land and all that stuff. My dad became a millionaire, lost it shortly after. But he took me out one time, picked me up, and he says, okay. And I think it may have been Kmart he took me to. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And he says, now, anything you want. I says, anything? He goes, any toy you want. I said, a bike? He goes, any toy you want. And I'm thinking to myself, any toy I want. I said, okay. So we go to the toy aisles. We're walking up and down. And I see this white robot. It was about 2.5 feet tall. It was called Omnibot.
I remember Omnibot.
Remember Omnibot? Okay.
I forgot about it until you mentioned it, but I remember him.
And I said, Dad, that's what I want. He goes, this thing? I said, yeah, that's Omnibot, Dad. I said, that thing's a real robot.
Yeah.
And he's like, he goes, it kind of looks like that guy from R2-D2. I said, well, but I'm telling you, I said, this thing, it has all these things it talks to you. And so anyways, it was like, I remember because my dad almost threw up when we took it to the counter. It was like $300 and something. And I says, oh, Dad, he goes, nope, I told you anything? Get it. He goes, are you sure this is what you want? He goes, Denny, this is a very expensive toy that, he goes, you need to take care of this thing. Don't bring it out. Don't blah, blah. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. I played with that thing every day. It would talk. It would, like, you could have it follow you around the house. It would learn its way, kind of like those vacuums. We have one of those Zoombot vacuums, right? And so it would detect where walls were, and it would learn. And it would have these little wheels underneath, and it had like a traction wheel, like a tractor does. And so it would drive around the house. And then his
yours have the tray with it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I'm looking. You can get a few used ones on eBay.
Yeah. And it would talk, and it's. If I remember the face of it, or his eyes and mouth, like the face was like a red plastic or something.
Yeah, it's like a gray plastic, but it's got red eyes.
Yeah. And as he would talk, his eyes would, go in sync with his voice. And then it would play music for you. I think it had a cassette tape player.
Yeah, it looks like it's got a cassette player in there, too.
Yep, and it would hold...
That price they should have.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what it's going for on Etsy or eBay right now, but...
there's one that's $360.
Wow.
There's some as low as $90, $150, but they're untested, so who's to know? To say?
Still, that's an old... dude, that's an old toy, like technology-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So for it to be reselling for the resale, right, privately for that... that goes to show you something. That's why I said it was over $300. That I do know. It could have been like $350 or $360, somewhere up there. But I had it about 2 weeks, and I go over to my buddy's house, and I brought it with me. I was like, "Oh, dude, you got an Omnibot?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Now he lived on the second floor, and we were all sitting in the living room.
I think I know where this is going.
And he goes, dude, that thing drive by itself? I'm like, yeah, but it's got to learn the way. So I said, Omnibot, go in the kitchen. So it started driving, and it was going slow because it's trying to move away from obstacles. Well, what does it do? Goes out in the little hallway, takes a left, and before I could even jump up, it drives down the stairs, and all you hear is ba-boom, ba-boom. Dude, I look up, and there's Omnibot. Smashed it. His dome, because it had a plastic dome over his head, was smashed.
Oh, no.
I mean, he collectively, like, he was intact. He only had a couple, plastic pieces broken on him. He still drove and all that stuff, but his dome was cracked. I think one of his eyes cracked, and he wouldn't function as well as he did. So basically, it was trash. And I only had it 2 weeks. I was more mad because I listened to my friends talk me into letting him, drive around this small little rinky crap hole of an apartment he had, and there were stairs right there, and I should have known better. But there goes $350. I didn't have the heart to tell my dad.
Yeah,
I
just, better not.
Yeah, well, I was too scared too. I was afraid of my dad. He never hit us kids, but I was afraid of him. Like, I can't tell my father; he's gonna kill me. But yeah, the Omnibot, man. Oh, that was awesome.
Do you remember the Speak and Spell?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
That was, I remember when that came out, that was like the most amazing thing, that it could talk and read words that you type on the screen.
Well, yeah, that's right around the time when they had, was it the Etch-a-Sketch? Well, the Etch-a-Sketch was out before that, but the new and improved after, Etch-a-Sketch, right? That was a little bit different. And then they had, it was like the speak it thing you just said, but it was something, it was like, the heck was the name of that toy?
Simon? You had Simon, which was huge.
It could have been Simon Says,
the four colors, and you had to...
Yeah. And
you had to memorize. Do you remember Perfection?
Yes.
It's like, people wonder why Gen X is the way they are, because the kind of toys we had was Operation and Perfection, where you were on a timer, and you had to, as soon as you think you got the pieces in the timer, it's like being a bombed technician, disabler or whatever.
Yeah, you were stressed.
People don't really remember, but there was a Super Perfection.
Yes,
where
I remember that one.
You had to put the blocks together. They were different shaped pieces, but you find the ones that matched, and they'd make blocks, and then you set them in.
Yes.
And that one was the more challenging of the two. But yeah.
Well, it's funny because you just mentioned Operation. I played it, a couple years ago. It was like a newer version. I mean, it was so chimsy, dude. It was like not what I remember. But do you remember, though, the Operation we played as kids? Okay, now it was like, dude, it was like getting shocked by a probe or something. I mean, that thing would vibrate and shock you
and it was
loud.
Once.
Yeah, very loud. Like the whole board would go, and it would scare the crap out of you, even though you anticipated on it, right? And to challenge yourself, we'd set up a little timer, right? So you had like a 30 seconds or 6, whatever it was, and you're rushing against the clock
to try to see how many you could get out.
To try to see how many you could get out there. Yeah, and the weird thing is, if you remember, the tweezers or whatever it was that you had, they too were metal. Like, the whole piece was metal. So no matter what you touched, you were getting zapped. Like, it did zap you. I do remember that, because I used to I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to do this game. I don't want to. And my brother and sister's like, come on. I'm like, no, it hurts me. Yeah, but then they come out with a game called Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah, where it was like a table that you had the 2 knobs where you could control the X and Y axis on it.
Yep. Did you ever get to the finish line on that?
I never owned one. My cousin had one. I don't know if I ever made it to the end or not.
I never did. I never did.
Now, I did have one. I looked it up actually the other day because I was thinking about it, or I saw it on Marketplace. It was similar to Labyrinth, except it was made out of plastic, and you only used one marble, and you had 60 seconds, and there was a bunch of knobs. And so, like, the first one, you'd start the marble, and it was like a up and down platform. When you pushed a button, they would go back and forth, up and down, so that you try to get the marble to go back, up and down those to the other side. Then you had a magnet that you had to get it to connect and then turn it around. But it was like this whole different series of things that you had to do to get the marble all the way to the end, and within, I think it was 60 seconds. And it was kind of an odd named game, but it was another one of those I loved to
looking at is this is one of the older Erecta sets, and if you look,
number 4.5.
Yep.
I think the one my dad has was the 11 or 12.
Oh, okay. Okay,
so that shows you the scale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even at that 4.5, though, if you look at the at the wheels,
you see the tires,
yeah. All right, and look at the size of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was on the lines of like what you were talking about, and then of course you'd have your light bright, like what you said. You could build. I remember we had the light bright, and it had the black paper, and then it would have.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And
it would have the pre-printed dots on it.
Yeah.
And didn't they also have like little letters, like O stood for orange, B was for blue?
Yes,
so
yes, they did.
One.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then you could either, punch the holes according to the white dots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would try to design, like we'd have, contests. And so we didn't use the black paper, but instead what we would do is we'd try to come up with our own designs and drawings, whether it's the sun and some of the pictures they gave you, like the illustrations, you're like, there's no way somebody did, because they were elaborate. I mean, they were awesome. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we had dude, that's like 5 feet. That's that's huge, right? And
yeah, like I say, that parachute drop, I know I said 3 feet or so, but I want to say when I built it when I was younger, I had to get on a footstool, so it could have been closer to that 5 foot range, 4 or 5 foot, because you figured it's got to have enough room to pull those parachutes up high enough to be able to drop them like the original ride.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And the cool thing about it, what Richard and I are sharing is that, so we're sharing images of, well, right now we're talking about the Erecta set because him and I both had one. Different styles, but essentially the same thing. And what we're discussing is when you look at the instructions, the manual, like this one, for instance, some of these you could build from the kits they gave you, a Ferris wheel, like this looks like a crane, that would actually work. 5 feet accessories you got, the bigger and more elaborate you could build these things.
Mm-hmm.
There was no end to the stuff we could do when we were kids. And after this, I'm actually going to look online and see if I can locate, especially an Erecta set. I want to get one. I want to get an Erecta set, dude. I really do. And I want to get an Erecta set and then some Lego logs. But mainly an Erecta set, kind of like that one that you can build a huge Ferris wheel with, like with the working motors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to get one of those.
Another toy that I think was probably my dad's, that I really loved because my grandma had it. I've got a picture. I did find them. They were called, I don't know if you remember, they're called American bricks. They were red bricks, kind of like Lego, but they didn't lock together like Lego. They had like little pegs that you could connect them, but they were a loose connection. They weren't like a solid snap, but you had these, and each section of bricks looked like several bricks, and like if you were looking at a house, and you could build houses. It came with you could tell the plastic on these things was very primitive plastic.
Yeah, like these right here
we have today. But yeah, if you look up American bricks,
yeah, it's right here. See the picture?
Oh, I'm on my own.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
So yeah, that picture right there. You had all these just random with the white windows and doors, and the roofs were like almost like cardboard, green cardboard that you'd put on the top. And I mean, I would spend hours at my grandma's playing with those things, building different houses, and yeah, so much fun. Simple. I mean, most kids would get so bored with stuff like that nowadays. But back when you didn't have all the flashy things to grab your attention, when you had something like that, boy, your imagination would just run wild.
Well, what I find interesting is years later, still, I mean, I'm in my 50s, and I am still captivated and that kid in me would, in a heartbeat, spend a day and just do this. I would like, and it wouldn't bother me at all. I would proudly yell from my rooftop, "Hey, I'm building. I have an erector set," because it's a lost mindset. It's a lost tradition, I think, where the simplicity of it is so simple, but yet the expansion of growth, our creativity. I mean, we learned, right? I mean, aside from school, we learned a lot, even from our toys, because our toys were designed for us to learn and be creative and, educate us, right? To prepare us essentially for the real world as we got older, went on to school. And what I also find pretty interesting, Richard, is 90% of the toy consumers are adults.
Yeah.
Not kids, and cool guys, ladies and gentlemen.